morning, everyone. All right, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here at PS20. This is a positive school, as you can hear from the response back here. We want to thank especially young people for being here with us for this great announcement. PS20 is known by its principal, Victoria Hart, as the Yes School, and we thank the principal for her great work. When she calls it the Yes School, she means it is a place where everyone who works here listens to the community, listens to the students and the families to understand how to serve them best, and is always open to innovation. And that is certainly a fitting idea and a fitting setting today, because today we say yes to Lunar New Year as a school holiday in New York City. This is something that I pledged to do years ago, and I want to tell you, we got here today because of the extraordinary advocacy of the people standing around me. You're going to hear from a number of them. But this is really a victory for the leaders standing around me who fought for this issue, who raised it to public attention, who have been resolute. And there are so many things happening any given day in New York City. But these leaders kept this issue on the front burner. They said it was very, very important to their community and something that we had to focus on. And we're here today because of their leadership. So let's give a round of applause to all the leaders standing here who made it possible. We believe in celebrating this multicultural city. And in this case, starting on February 8th, 2016, we'll celebrate Lunar New Year. We will become only the second major U.S. city to add Lunar New Year to our calendar, and we're proud of that fact. Now, we know at the same time we have an obligation under state law to achieve at least 180 school days, and we know that every one of those school days matters for our children, for their learning, for their growth, for their development. So there was a lot that we had to balance to get this right, because we had to make sure we kept that school calendar intact, and we had to be ready, of course, for the kinds of things that happen each year, the snowstorms and other challenges we face. It took some work, but we got there. And we know that this is something that, again, adds to the celebration of everything that makes this city great, and that is particularly going to be deeply felt at a place like PS20, where nearly 3/4 of the students are Asian American. So this is a day where it took work, but like so many great things, it was worth it to get us to this day and to honor this great community. Now, I had a similar experience when we talked about the Eid holidays. We were talking about a holiday that is not associated with the language Spanish. But as I said at the time, because it's New York City, I'm now going to talk about Asian Lunar New Year in Spanish. What would be more New York than that? Hoy me complace mucho anunciar que el Día del Año Nuevo Lunar será feriado en las escuelas. Esta decisión reconoce y refleja la grandiosa diversidad de nuestra ciudad. There, that was a true New York moment. Now it is my honor to bring forward the Chancellor of our schools. She is an extraordinary leader and someone who has been committed to the highest quality education for all our children and the celebration of the diversity of this great city. Chancellor Carmen Fariña.
Only in New York City could you have a mayor celebrating Chinese holiday in Spanish. And I think that's really what's wonderful about our city. It's also about respecting people's faith and their belief system. And I think this is one of the promises made that is being kept. And I think that's really, really important. I also want to emphasize how important it is that we don't lose educational time. So we're working very hard to make sure that any time lost is caught up in other ways, and we'll be sending out more specific information how that time will be done, particularly what half days and so forth might be combined to ensure that the schedule stays true so that every day is a teachable moment. But taking time off to honor people's heritage is also a teachable moment. And we're putting together brochures for all our schools, because you're not celebrating Chinese Lunar New Year only in Chinese or Korean schools or Asian schools. We're celebrating it in every single school in New York City, so that we also all learn more respect for each other. So it's a pleasure to be here today, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. And I want to just take a moment to acknowledge, we're going to hear from some folks, but I want to acknowledge some of the folks who have gathered with us. I want to thank also from my administration, our Department of Youth and Community Development Commissioner Bill Chong. I want to thank Assembly members Neely Rozek and Ed Brownstein for being here with us. And again, you're going to hear from a couple of our other leaders. And first, we're going to hear from our Congresswoman. I can tell you there have been many times when Congressmember Grace Meng has raised this issue to me. She has been resolute, fought for it when she was in Albany, has continued since she's gone to D.C. It's my honor to introduce Congresswoman Grace Meng.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Fariña, for making this announcement today here in Queens. It's always great to have you here in our district, and we're really excited to have you here today. It's been a really long road for us, but we finally made it. At long last, a school holiday for Asian Lunar New Year will be a reality in New York City. For me, this is very personal. Back in 2009, just after I was elected to the New York State Assembly, I was amongst the first to introduce legislation that sought to close city schools for the new year. And when I went to Congress in 2013, the bill was prime-sponsored by in the very capable hands of my successor, Assemblyman Ron Kim. And on the Senate side, State Senator Dan Squadron. I also want to thank two champions, Senator Toby Stavitsky and Marty Golden, without whose efforts this would not have been possible. And Assemblyman Kim and Senator Squadron and everyone did a terrific job in shepherding the measure through the legislature. I also want to take a moment to thank our New York City congressional delegation. I was just with Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez last night, and they all signed a letter. They were pretty persistent too in reaching out, so I do want to take this moment to thank them. When I was serving in Albany, we had urged the previous mayor to make Lunar New Year a school holiday, but he said no. And that's why we were so excited when Bill de Blasio, even as a candidate, said during his campaign that he would approve the school holidays for Eid and for Asian Lunar New Year. Well, a year and a half ago, he became mayor, and today he has proven that he is a man of his word. When we found out the news from the mayor's office, the first people I told were my two children, Tyler and Brandon, ages 5 and 7, and they were so excited. They asked how this could happen and why this could happen, and since we are in a yes school, they did not take yes for an answer, and they're now asking for a week off. But we understand.
You trained them well.
We're not going that route. But Mr. Mayor, since you took office, I've continuously pushed and prodded you on this issue. I know, and we've sent letters to you and Chancellor Fariña. We've discussed it and advocated with our community leaders, who I want to give a special shout out, because year after year we got together and pushed for this school holiday. Mr. Mayor, although we continue to nudge you, we always had faith in you and never for a single moment doubted that you would come through. And we want to thank your team for making this happen as well. You understand the rich and vibrant diversity of our great city. You understand how important it is for our school system to recognize all the important holidays observed by the many cultures and ethnicities that exist throughout the 5 boroughs. When I first sponsored the bill that would give kids the day off for Lunar New Year, there wasn't much support for it outside the Asian American community. When the electeds were going around asking for support, people even laughed at us. But we knew deep down that momentum would eventually build and that one day, with hard work, its time would finally come. And now here we are. We've come full circle on this issue, and I could not be prouder to have led the charge on it with my colleagues. The Asian American community continues to grow and mature, and the move to establish a school holiday is the right and fair decision. Lunar New Year is the most important holiday of the year for Asian Americans, and Asian American students should not be forced to choose between celebrating with family or missing school. Thanks to the mayor and to Chancellor Fariña, they no longer will. Thank you very much.
Toby Ann Stavisky, Senator Stavisky may not look Asian, but she has fought with tenacity for the community as if she was born into it. We thank her for her leadership. Senator Stavisky.
If you ask Peter Koo, he'll disagree. First, buenos dias.
Good.
Dajiahao. And annyeonghaseyo. Because we are obviously a multicultural community, as you can see just by looking at the wonderful people here. And yes, this is a teachable moment. I am a former high school teacher. And I must tell you, PS20 has been ground zero for the movement for the city to declare the Lunar New Year holiday, because we have stood outside in good weather, in bad weather, and today it may be warm, but it's the warmth of success and love that we all feel for our community. So again, Mr. Mayor and Chancellor, and all of my colleagues in government, we thank you, and we look forward to celebrating this Lunar New Year come February so that families don't have to decide whether to send their children to school or to celebrate their rich cultural heritage. Now they can do both. Thank you.
Thank you. Also a great leader on this issue has been a senator I've had the honor of working with on a whole host of issues. He's been resolute on this one as well. Senator Dan Squadron.
I'm just that awkward height, not quite for the platform, so I hope you can see me. First of all, I really do want to join the chorus thanking the mayor and the chancellor for their decision today. As the mayor said, this is a complicated puzzle. It's one that takes focus and commitment, and the mayor following up on his pledge and the chancellor working with him to make it happen means so much to the entire community, from Chinatown to Flushing to Sunset Park and across the city, so thank you again. And I also want to thank my co-sponsors, the other sponsors of the bill over all these years. In April 2009, April 27th, Assemblymember Meng and myself put in a bill asking for the Lunar New Year school holiday. My city council member was a guy named Bill de Blasio. One of his constituents was a private citizen named Carmen Fariña. And Ron Kim was himself a private citizen. Today, Assemblymember Kim and Congressmember Meng, Councilmember Chin, who has done this at the city council level, Senator Golden, Senator Stavisky, the rest of my colleagues have come together to make this happen. And it's that kind of coalition that is what today really is all about, along with the endless effort and energy of the advocates. You know, the prior administration wouldn't do this, but we pushed the prior administration every way we possibly could. In this administration, we've been working closely for months now with Commissioner Carriel and the Department of Education and City Hall. And the fact that they've done this is not just big news in this community, it is big news for the entire city. It is definitive proof that as the city evolves, our calendar and our values should evolve with it. And that's what this is about. It's about the practical challenge that so many families who celebrate Asian Lunar New Year have had for so many years and will never have again. And it's about, as a city, us saying this is one of the holidays that a significant portion of who we are celebrate actively, and all of us must acknowledge. So I am so proud that we were able to put together the coalition. I am so proud that we have a mayor and a chancellor who take this as seriously as they do. And I simply can't wait for February 8th next year when we can all together ring in the Year of the Monkey. Thank you.
Well, Ron Kim's name has been mentioned several times, and I have to say, he has been really one of the key actors. He fought very, very hard in Albany, and he created a lot of the dynamics that led to today's announcement. We're grateful both for his persistence and his willingness to work with the city productively to get to a good solution. I want to thank him for his leadership. Assemblymember Ron Kim.
I may need a little
All right,
second,
give you a little extra height there.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I need an extra height after Bill de Blasio. 6'6". Is it 6'7", Mayor?
6'6".
6'6". All right.
Only 6. Now you know what it feels like. You're almost exactly there.
I'm almost there. There you go. I'm proud to stand with the mayor of the city of New York and my colleagues at PS20. This is the school that I attended 30 years ago.
Amen.
PS20. PS20 in the house. We're here to officially recognize Lunar New Year as a school holiday. This holiday is not just about the kids just getting a day off from school. It's about the city of New York telling hundreds of thousands of Asian Americans that their culture and heritage is part of the American fabric. In light of the mayor's commitment to make Lunar New Year's a recognized holiday, I've decided to lay aside my legislation which would have mandated this holiday in the city of New York. Our objective has always been to work and collaborate with the mayor in advancing inclusive policies and celebrating the rich diversity of our great city. Our community thanks Mayor Bill de Blasio for his leadership, Carmen Fariña for your work in the DOE, and my colleagues, Toby Stavisky, Dan Squadron, Grace Meng, Peter Koo, Margaret Chen, for their persistence, and of course our advocates behind us who showed up day in, day out, pushing for this for many, many years. In closing, I do want to just give a special shout out to my colleague in the Senate, Dan Squadron, because he actually, you could clap.
Always good to clap.
Because he actually gave up his legislation to another senator in the majority to make sure that his bill in the Senate last year could have passed, and this year also passed. So I want to give Senator Dan Squadron and Toby Stavisky for the tremendous work. Now let's go celebrate Lunar New Year. Thank you.
And I want to echo Ron Kim's comments. Let's give a round of applause to all these advocates who work so hard. Now, officially my title is mayor, but I understand there is another mayor here in the room, the mayor of Flushing, he's known as. And he is a just and wise leader. He's also known as council member Peter Koo.
Thank you, Mr. Good morning. 今天大家早上好。Hola, ¿cómo está? 안녕하세요. This is a historic day in New York City. I would like to thank Mayor de Blasio and all my colleagues in government, and Chancellor Fariña and Bill Cito, DYCD Commissioner, for attending this really important event. I would want to thank all the community leaders here too for coming here to celebrate with us, and all the VIP guests in the audience. Thank you for coming. It is appropriate that we have this announced here at PS20, the John Barnes School, where 75% of the school population is Asian. The school is named for John Barnes, a very famous fighter for religious freedom. His 17th century home is just down the street here. Thank you. There's so much history here in Flushing, and we are continuing to make history today. For many years, Asian kids have grown up in New York City thinking their heritage and culture was not as important as their peers. So many families had to choose between celebrating Lunar New Year or sending the kids to school. No family should have to make that choice. Over the years, Lunar New Year celebrations have become bigger and bigger. People from all over the city celebrate together. People from different colors and creeds celebrate together. It's no longer just one group of people, but all communities coming together to share our values and traditions and learn from each other. That's what Lunar New Year is all about. That's what New York is all about. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, the People's Mayor.
My fellow mayor, thank you.
Mayor de Blasio has kept his promise from his campaign. He had UPK, universal health care, and pretty soon minimum wage increase, right?
Amen.
So he's really the people's mayor. So I want to thank each one of you. Cansamida and muchas gracias. And Cecilia, okay? Thank you.
You covered it all. Well done. Well, one more speaker, fresh off her victories last night in the city budget, and she is persistent. She was exceedingly persistent on some budget issues, but no less persistent on this issue. I've learned if I see Margaret Chin in the same room that I am about to get a very strong message, and it's one of her most endearing qualities. She never gives up. Councilmember Margaret Chin.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Mayor. I only come to Flushing for important things, and this is important. And I'm so happy that you kept your promise. And I know that I'm not the only one that was keep pushing. We have all the people here. I want to thank all my elected colleagues, the advocates, the community leader, who never gave up because we knew that it was going to happen. And we thank the Chancellor for working with us. Mayor, when there is a will, there is a way, right? And I'm so glad that by working together, we made it happen so that our children can celebrate with all the children in New York City during Lunar New Year. And that is a wonderful moment for all of us in the city. So thank you to you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to do some on-topic questions, followed by some off-topic questions. First, on-topic questions. Yes. I feel like I saw you just a few hours ago.
I'm wondering, what are you going to say to the next cultural group that asks for a day off? And second, would you consider extending the school year either into June or earlier in September to accommodate?
Well, let me first talk about the school year and then go to your first question. The Chancellor and I have worked on this issue from the beginning. We've thought about the different requests in terms of holidays, and we've obviously thought about the reality of weather, because we have learned the hard way about the reality of weather. We have a pretty sacred obligation to hit that 180 days a year, both for the educational needs of our kids and because of state law. So everything we've done is with an effort to not just plan for the next year, but plan years and years ahead. And that's been deliberative, and that's part of what's taken some time here to really make sure we could get this right. I said well before this year that I believed we needed to recognize the 2 Eid holidays, that I believed we needed to recognize Asian Lunar New Year. And that's all I've ever said, and that's where we will stand. There are many wonderful communities in this city. I understand anyone's impulse to add additional holidays, but at this point, I've kept my pledge, and I don't intend to make any additions anytime in the foreseeable future, because we've worked very hard to create a balance in the calendar and to protect those 180 days. And it's taken a lot of work, and I think at this point, we need to stay with what we've got. On topic.
Just following up on that, Mr. Mayor, but if you're doing this out of cultural respect and out of the need not to make individuals choose between their religion and school, how can you say it's going to stop there? Why would one religion or culture get over another?
Well, look, there's a combination of obviously larger philosophical issues here and practical issues as well. We're talking about, in both the case of the Eid holidays with the Muslim community and the case of Lunar New Year with the many communities that celebrate it, cumulatively very large communities and growing communities. And that was also part of the consideration. How big are these communities and what do we project the community size to be going forward? There are some other communities I think can make a perfectly strong argument, but we have to take into account the size of the community. We also have to take into account the very practical matter that we have physical limitations in the school holiday, in the school calendar, that have to be recognized. You know, we can't, Labor Day is a fixed reality, and the end of June is a fixed reality, and there's a lot of other things that go into the mix. So again, I'm very comfortable that we made the right decisions. I have fulfilled the pledges I made, and I intend for us to stay at this point. Last call on topic, yes?
Did you feel any pressure because of what was going on legislatively in Albany to make this decision, to make this happen right now at the end of the school year?
Yeah, I think there's two realities. One, over the last year and a half, we've been regularly meeting about the calendar issues and about the holiday issues. We've heard from a lot of advocates. I said consistently it was something I intended to do, but it was taking us time to figure out how to do it right. Look, our friends in Albany were very aggressive, and that's part of the legislative process. You know, they were moving to send a strong message. Ron Kim and I talked, among others, and said, look, this is something we want to do. Let's find a way to do this together. And we were able to resolve that and get to this today. So, of course, we listen to the legislature when it's something where there's shared values, and the question was how we got there. We never doubted getting there. It was a question of how when we were able to resolve that, and that brought us to today. On topic.
I just want to clarify the days that you're subbing in for this, the half days. My understanding is some of those ones in June aren't in every grade level, and so it might be a little complicated to do.
Again, we're talking about, in this case, a holiday that will not occur until February 2016. We have time to make adjustments, but I remind you, every year will be different because of when holidays fall. The Eid holidays, for example, can fall on very different dates depending on the year. So each year is going to look a little different. We'll make adjustments accordingly, but the bottom line is we're going to ensure the instruction days are there for our kids. On topic. Louder. It's just a regular full holiday like any of the other school holidays. Last call on topic.
For the school have a lot of Asian kids or for the whole school?
Again, it's an official school holiday like Christmas, like many other holidays, official school holiday for everybody. Was there any other questions? Media questions on topic? Going once, going twice. We are off topic.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask one on topic. What would you do to celebrate the Lunar New Year?
I've had the honor of being parts of a host of celebrations before, and Grace and Ron and many other friends, Peter and Margaret, will tell me all the right celebrations to take part in. I look forward to it.
In the budget last night, you added 300 police for counterterrorism. Can you specifically explain what typically ISIS? Is there any particular reason you need 300?
There remains no specific credible threat, but we are constantly vigilant. We obviously are concerned about lone wolf activity. And this was a decision that we've talked about for quite a while with the commissioner, that we needed a dedicated group. It's going to be 300 plus, 350 or so, with our critical response vehicles that will be specifically trained for anti-terror duty, that will only do anti-terror duty, that will be equipped with the appropriate equipment and weaponry for anti-terror duty. And it's something we decided made sense in today's environment. Rather than borrowing officers from precincts, catch as catch can, we wanted a dedicated force. So this is something we've been talking about for a while. It made a lot of sense to me. It made a lot of sense to the council, and obviously the commissioner and his team will be laying out more details in the coming days.
For your breakfast in the classroom in the budget, I know there were some logistical and funding position.
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about how those got sorted out and how the departments
Yeah, there's still work being done on that, but the bottom line is we felt that school breakfast was an area where we could really make an impact. As the Chancellor often notes in our many meetings, school breakfast is available before school in all of our schools, but it wasn't getting enough usage, and a lot of kids obviously were not necessarily getting the food that they needed to learn best. So we thought it made a lot of sense, particularly at the elementary school level, to make this a universal reality. It will be achieved by fiscal 18. There are still logistical issues being worked through. There are still union issues being worked through. But we put the money in the budget because we were confident that we were on the pathway to resolving those issues.
I wonder if you could explain an interview you gave to WNYC on June 5th. You said there are so many other challenges in rejecting or appearing to reject the additional cops. What did you mean back then?
I mean what I would say today as well. We have a host of challenges. We've obviously invested a lot in them, and you can see that in the budget as well. But what I said last night, and you were there, got me to this point is that we had, I thought, an extraordinary combination of features that made our choices in this budget correct. The strong views of the City Council, the real reforms that we got in terms of overtime and in terms of civilianization, and the fact that over the last weeks there's been a much deeper conversation with Commissioner Bratton about how this vision could establish neighborhood policing for the first time on an ongoing basis in this city. We have those other challenges, and we're putting a lot of resources in them, and we're going to continue to. But I thought we had a moment here where we could do something very big and lasting.
Were those realities untrue 2 weeks ago?
No, it's the same exact point. We have continued to invest things I've cited before. We're making unprecedented investments in corrections, unprecedented investments in homeless services, and we will continue to. But again, what has evolved since the executive budget is a combination of the cost savings that were not there at the time of the executive budget, and that matters deeply in any budgetary decision. The evolution of the Commissioner's vision for how we could achieve neighborhood policing, which was not clear at the time of the executive budget, because it's been part of an ongoing year-and-a-half reevaluation of our force. And it's a legislative process. The Council kept coming back time and again to this being their top priority, and we wanted to honor that while investing in other areas.
Rikers Island deal, are you happy with the outcome, and are you confident that the raft of reforms are going to make a difference, and how will you measure the success?
Yes, I'm comfortable with the outcome. We're going to work with the federal government to make the reforms necessary. Yes, I'm confident we're making progress already, and we're going to deepen our progress. The measures are quite clear. We need to see a reduction in violence. We need to see a reduction in weapons and contraband getting into the facility. The proposals that we've put forward, for example, on visitation, we think will make a huge difference. The way we're going to change how we recruit and train our correctional officers is going to make a huge difference. I think we are getting closer and closer to the goal of a fair and humane Rikers Island.
Those changes?
Again, we have invested a lot. You guys have seen the last two budgets. We've decided to do what wasn't done in the past. We've invested in fixing the problem. We'll continue to.
Mr. Mayor, back to the police if we can. Was there a moment of epiphany when you were sitting with, say, the police commissioner or somebody, you just went, the scales went whoop, like that, and suddenly you said...
I think there were several moments, is the honest truth. It was not like a light shone down from the heavens, but there were some meetings with the commissioner in the last few weeks where we went from a broader discussion of his vision to a much more detailed one that became very, very compelling to me. Because he proved to me, to my satisfaction, that this vision of neighborhood policing that so many of us have wanted to see realized for years and years actually could be reached with an investment that we could find a way to achieve. But second, the cost savings issue went back and forth for weeks and weeks. And I said last night, and I remember this from my time in the council's been pushing civilianization, the council's been pushing overtime caps for years, and bluntly, it didn't happen on a very big level previously. We got progress on civilianization last year, but there was clearly more that could be done. As those conversations ensued between me and the council and obviously with the police department, we found options to go much farther on civilianization. This is literally over the last week or two, much farther on the cap on overtime than literally had ever been achieved before. And that was a crucial factor to me in this decision. So it's been several points over the last few weeks.
please.
What was the reaction in the room when you said yes? I mean,
In the room.
in the room or on the phone? I don't know where.
Who are we talking about, brother?
I don't know who was in the room. Or
I've been in a lot of rooms. You need to ask your question in a way that the answerer can understand. Let's try again.
Was there a reaction in whatever group it was, whatever place it was?
If you ever were in a room. Look, I assume what you're asking is how did the speaker feel? We had worked long and hard on this issue. An extremely collaborative process, but meeting after meeting, this went back and forth, back and forth. I think what's important to understand here is this was not based on one conversation or two conversations, it's based on dozens of conversations. Obviously, she believed that we had hit the balance point, and she was very gratified that we had come to an agreement. Equally, the commissioner who had put forward a very powerful vision, but one based on, again, a year and a half of study, the more he explained the depth of it and what it could do, the more convinced I became. And I think for him, it's a chance to take a lot of what he has worked on for years and apply it here in a way that I wish we had done decades ago. I mean, if we can achieve sustained neighborhood policing, which I am convinced will bring police and community together in a way we've never seen before, this will be an extraordinary moment for New York City. Thank you, everyone.